Despite the fact that the 2021 season hasn't even started, in fact we haven't even had a single livery launch as of recording, I found myself already looking ahead even beyond 2021 and onto 2022 because recently I was thinking about Pierre Gasly and where exactly his career is going. I don't think it's crazy to say that in 2021 he will be actively looking for a way out of AlphaTauri and the wider Red Bull family. However, looking at all of the available options for 2022, it really looks to me as though, regardless of how good Pierre will be next season, his future to me seems for the most part out of his hands, looking at the realistic options on the grid and more in the hands of the other drivers on the grid. And of course, as with everything in Formula 1, a little bit of luck too. So, where exactly does Pierre stand at the moment compared to the other drivers on the grid, and also where do I think is the best place for him to go in 2022? Now, if we talk about Gasly, we can't not mention the rollercoaster that he's been through over the last 2 seasons. In 2019, he had one of the worst and best seasons in his life all at the same time, going from being dominated by Verstappen to then getting demoted back down to Toro Rosso, and then a few races later scoring his first career podium after one of the most emotional races I've ever seen. Then going into this year with the team turning into AlphaTauri, despite the crazy and chaotic schedule, from race 1 he seemed like a much more relaxed driver. He really seemed to thrive in the AlphaTauri environment, delivering great and consistent results, including an emphatic first career win in Monza after taking advantage of a fortuitous race and holding off under massive pressure a chasing Carlos Sainz to get his first F1 Grand Prix win, which undoubtedly was one of my biggest highlights of 2020. However, despite Pierre's incredible 2020 season, I still don't quite rate him as one of the absolute best in the midfield. Don't get me wrong, he was arguably one of the top 5 drivers of 2020, and he is a great driver, but in my opinion, for him to be on the same level as a Ricciardo or a Perez, not only do I need to see another season at least on that kind of level, he also, in my book, for him to really be considered, again, amongst the best of the best in that midfield, he's got to go out and beat the best in the same machinery, because sure, beating Brendan Hartley and Daniil Kvyat was good, and I'm sure he'll get the better of Yuki Tsunoda this year as well, but if you want to be considered on that level, again, a Perez or Ricciardo, you've got to do it against difficult teammates, and that is something that Pierre still has not done, in my opinion. But anyway, that is just things that, in my opinion, he still needs to achieve. But guys, don't get it twisted. Pierre has already proven himself as one of the most consistent and most solid drivers on the grid, and someone who can pull off those surprise results like his win in Monza. However, even though he is doing a great job at AlphaTauri, leading that team as it is at the moment, I think we can all see that he wants a bigger future for himself than just to be at AlphaTauri. So in 2021, he is going to be taking his talents and ambitions, I'm sure, and looking to see what his options are going into 2022 for a potential new beginning in his career. So with that in mind, let's go through the list of not only the available seats, but also the most realistic seats that Gasly could go into for 2022. And this is where things very quickly become complicated for Pierre Gasly. Now, just remember, although some of these lineups are officially filled at these teams with some drivers having contracts for 2022, things in Formula 1 can change very quickly with contracts being broken, drivers being dropped, so just keep that in mind. But again, for the purposes of this video, the seats which are contractually accounted for will be off limits to Pierre. Now, as far as the teams that officially have both of their seats locked down for 2022, and the teams that definitely are not options for Pierre Gasly, those teams are Ferrari, McLaren, and Haas. Next are the teams that have one driver already signed up, but have the second seat still up for grabs, with those teams being Alpine, Aston Martin, Red Bull, and Williams. And lastly, in terms of the teams that don't have any drivers under contract for 2022, they are AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, and despite Hamilton's recent contract news, Mercedes also don't have any drivers officially on the books for 2022. So there definitely are seats available. However, immediately some of these teams have to be taken off the list as potential landing spots. The first one is Aston Martin, who although do have a seat alongside Seb, it's almost a guarantee that Lance Stroll at some point will get an extension, so Aston Martin are out. The next one is Red Bull, who do have a spare seat alongside Verstappen. However, even if Perez isn't retained for 2022, I don't see Gasly heading back to Red Bull because firstly, if Red Bull really wanted him in the first place, they would have just gave him the seat in 2021 in place of Albon, but they didn't. So I don't see them suddenly wanting Gasly now all of a sudden. And then secondly, when Gasly did get dropped by Red Bull in 2019, there have been heavy rumors that I've heard myself that the relationship between Gasly, Horner and the Red Bull team itself did not end on good terms. So to me, a return to Red Bull, albeit is a possibility, is highly improbable. So when we really narrow down the realistic options of potential seats, we're left with Gasly staying exactly where he is at AlphaTauri for yet another year, going to Alpine alongside Alonso, going to Williams alongside Latifi, or going to either Mercedes or Alfa Romeo, who again, as of recording, have no confirmed drivers for 2022. So let's take a look in depth at those options and assess which one, in my opinion, is the most likely and honestly makes the most sense for Pierre Gasly. And first up is Mercedes. Now, the only way I can see Gasly at Mercedes is if Lewis, at the end of his new one-year extension, decided that he wants to leave at the end of 2021. If the team then decide that they also don't want to keep Valtteri Bottas, then in that scenario, a lineup of George Russell and Pierre Gasly could be an option for Mercedes for 2022. And in my opinion, that is a pretty solid lineup just by itself. However, even if Lewis does leave at the end of 2021, I really doubt Mercedes would be willing to have an all-new and unproven lineup for such a critical season, and with so many unknowns, the stability and continuity of at least keeping one of their current drivers for 2022, I think will be a major key to their success going forward, and that is why for this to really become a possibility for Pierre Gasly to end up at Mercedes, I think there would have to be a lot of circumstance changes for both Bottas, Hamilton, Mercedes and also George Russell. Now, of course, there is also the option for Pierre to just keep things as they are and sign yet another contract extension with AlphaTauri for 2022 and wait it out even longer to see how the grid plays out. But not only will that move, in my opinion, stall his career, but Gasly would be hoping that there isn't a Red Bull Junior that is ready to step up into F1 in 2022. Because from a Red Bull perspective, even though Gasly is going to keep the AlphaTauri team competitive, that team's sole purpose is to allow young Red Bull talent a chance at Formula 1 and to eventually maybe develop them into potential Red Bull drivers. So again, from the Red Bull perspective, if they're not ever going to promote Gasly back to Red Bull, why keep him there? Why not promote yet another Red Bull Junior alongside Yuki Tsunoda, who by then will have a year of Formula 1 under his belt and will be able to give AlphaTauri some continuity going into 2022. So again, although AlphaTauri may seem like a safe seat for Pierre that he can always fall back on if he can't find a seat anywhere else, that seat might not be so safe for very long if Red Bull decide to give another junior a chance at Formula 1. However, undoubtedly, the biggest seat that Pierre has been linked with and will continue to be linked with throughout 2021 is the seat at Alpine for 2022 alongside Fernando Alonso. Now, this is an interesting one because this seat, in my opinion, is completely out of Pierre's control in the sense that it all depends on Esteban Ocon. Now, Ocon didn't exactly have the best season in 2020 alongside Ricciardo, but there is no doubt that towards the end of the season, he really did come on leaps and bounds. He really closed the gap up in qualifying. He improved massively over the course of a Sunday. And also he did have at points throughout that season some really big pieces of bad luck due to reliability that cost him at key races. Now, whether or not Esteban can carry that momentum that he built at the end of 2020 into 2021 and improve even further is all down to him, but in my opinion, for there to be a real possibility of Ocon being swapped for Gasly in 2022, Esteban would have to have a seriously poor season because I don't think that Pierre is miles and miles and miles better than Esteban to the point where he instantly makes the team better. I mean, as I said earlier, Gasly has only had one really great season, and although I do think that he will continue this into 2021. For Alpine to justifiably drop Ocon in favor of Gasly, Gasly would have to have another stellar season, which I'm sure he will, but Ocon would need to completely drop off the cliff to the point where he really starts costing Alpine in the constructors. Now, do I really think Esteban Ocon is going to be that bad next season to the point where Alpine just have to drop him because he is costing them so many points in the Constructors' Championship? I can't really say that I do, so whilst I'm not saying that Gasly to Alpine in 2022 is not a possibility, it all depends on what Ocon does and whether he deserves an extension by Alpine. So next up is Alfa Romeo. Now, this is a really strange one in that one seat will always be in the hands of Ferrari, who use it for their junior drivers. That seat is currently occupied by Antonio Giovinazzi, and the other is currently occupied by Kimi Räikkönen, who yet again has re-signed yet another contract for 2021. The reason why this is a strange one is that for this to really become an option, it all depends on Kimi and whether or not he wants to keep going at the end of the season, since the other seat is controlled in part by Ferrari. Now, I could definitely see this as an option for Pierre, but he would have to seriously judge as to whether or not Alfa Romeo is a team that he would have success with in the future. He would also come in as kind of the sole Alfa Romeo driver, which would be great for Pierre as he would be the number one at the team, but on the other hand, having a young Ferrari hotshot as your teammate might be problematic because those drivers for the most part will always want to beat Pierre Gasly because they're trying to prove something to Ferrari instead of working with him. So does Pierre Gasly really want to be in that situation of constantly having to fight up and coming Ferrari talent? I'm just not sure that he does. So lastly, we get to Williams, and there is a very good reason why I've left Williams till last. Now, if things pan out with Russell and Mercedes the way we think that they will, and Russell does leave Williams at the end of 2021, with all respects to Nicholas Latifi, the team are going to be left without a surefire number one driver that can help them back up the grid, and that is why, to me, this is arguably the best fit for Pierre Gasly in 2022. Gasly to Williams, despite the fact that initially it might seem like a bad move because it would be a move down the grid even below AlphaTauri, let's not forget that nothing is for certain in 2022 in terms of what the pecking order will be, and I think this move makes a lot of sense for both parties. For Gasly, it would give him the chance to leave the Red Bull family and start fresh. He could begin to find himself as a driver and also become a leader within the team, using all of the years of experience that he has gained from all of the Red Bull teams. It would be a very similar scenario to what Sainz went through when he left the Red Bull family whilst racing for Renault in 2018 and went to McLaren, and when he did that, he became a different caliber of driver as we've seen, and I have no doubt that Pierre has the potential to do the same. Of course, there is no doubt that this would be a project, but Pierre Gasly is young and this would be Gasly's very own team. Although I'm sure Latifi will improve in the future, this would be Pierre's team, there's no doubt about it. He could build it around himself with him as the number one driver. And as for Williams themselves, there does seem to be light at the end of the tunnel. They are now much more financially stable with backing from both Nicholas Latifi's father and the money being injected by Doralton Capital, who recently acquired the team. Williams also recently strengthened their technical partnership with Mercedes, meaning they'll be able to acquire more parts from a championship-winning car in the future. So, out of all of the options, the Williams one to me just makes so much sense, and I think overall not only is it a great project for a young and already experienced driver like Gasly, but more important than anything else is that it could allow Pierre to go into a fresh environment, have a new motivation, and allow him to grow as a driver. Regardless of what happens with Pierre, he needs to keep his head in the game, he needs to stay focused, and remember that his driving will do most of the talking. He needs to go into 2021 and drive like it's his last season, drive like he's on the market, because as I said, to me, it really does seem like his future in Formula 1 is mostly out of his control and more dependent on other people really underperforming, or for luck to go his way. In the end, where he goes in 2022 is going to be career defining, and he needs to make sure that when the opportunity arises, he makes the right decision, because it will define his career going forward, and it will give us an indication if Gasly is destined to be just a great midfield driver or a potential multiple race winner and championship contender fighting at the front like I believe he has the potential to be. Well guys, there you go. That is my video on Pierre Gasly and why I think that, in a way, sadly, his career going forward and certainly some of the decisions that he's going to have to make in 2022 are out of his control. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comments box below, and also let me know where would you like to see Pierre Gasly go in 22, and also what is the most realistic place for him to go as well. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments box below. I can't wait to see what you guys think, and if you did enjoy this video, then don't forget to drop a like and smash that subscribe button as well. We are on the road to 100k, so hopefully we get there soon. And anyway guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.